is a regular meeting. This meeting has been properly notified. Do we have any visitors or delegations who would like to address the board this evening? So if you could come and tell us your name.
Hi, I'm Kathy Werwey. I have kids in the virtual program, a first grader and 3 fifth graders, and then I'm working with some other families, sort of tag team our time, so I have some experience with other elementary kids programs as well. And we have, sorry. I'm speaking on behalf of some other parents as well, who have been pretty frustrated with the virtual program so far. I apologize if this seems like terrible timing to speak before you all actually present the program. But we're 2 weeks in, 2+ weeks in, and we're finding a lot of, there are content issues, but then there are just straight platform issues. And it's very, very frustrating for the kids and for the parents. And frankly, it feels somewhat like a waste of our resources. We have excellent, excellent teachers. We have a lot of dedicated parents trying to help. And we're all trying to make this platform work. And it's frustrating the parents, it's frustrating the kids. And I'm not sure that the kids are really retaining anything much other than learning how to look for an answer and plug it in. There's very little long-term retention or even short-term retention happening. So I thought that I would read some comments from some other parents that wanted them to be read. Daniel Waskowitz said, one of the consistent problems is it will auto-populate answers in the drop-down box if you're going to type a number in, let's say. And most of the time, these answers are correct, which is not too helpful for the kids to think on their own. But then sometimes they're not, so they can't rely on that, but at the same time, they shouldn't rely on it. If anything populates, it should be all the answers possible. That continues to happen. There are a lot of login issues. Children are blocked from doing the next assignment if it needs time for grading. And sometimes it needs time for grading because let's say they have a map and they need to put in the Strait of Gibraltar. And they put it on where the Strait of Gibraltar is, but it's not acceptably placed for the platform. And so then it's wrong. So then we're waiting. And even though I know it's the Strait of Gibraltar, and I can show you on another map that that's the Strait of Gibraltar, it bogs down the whole experience. And then that sort of undermines the kids' learning because they can't be sure of anything. One of the biggest, when kids have to wait for grading, they can't progress. So we had a new plan to try and work. The teachers were suggesting that we work through, like, let's go through all of our math one day and all of our geography the next day. But the kids can't progress if the grading if the automatic grading isn't high enough. And it's pretty specific about anything that's written in being done in certain ways, which will just, basically they can't progress until that is addressed by the teacher and opened up or resubmitted by the teacher. The biggest thing I think that most of us parents are frustrated with is that there is no synchronous learning happening, and we were told there would be some. We all appreciate the connections being made with the Zoom calls with the teachers, and really that is so valuable to the students, and for them to see other students as well. But we're bothering to put them in this experience so that they actually learn something, and they will learn it better from a teacher teaching, even if it's on the other side of the screen, than from copious amounts of reading. And it is an intense amount of reading. I'm working with some fourth graders, and I am astounded at how much they have to read. They can highlight it and make it speak to them, but it's speaking in a robot voice. It reads wrong words, misspelled words. It reads a hyphen as a minus. So it's very confusing. And none of that, I feel like, is really helping them with their reading skills and their natural language.
I am going to respectfully interrupt and say that typically public comment times are short.
5 minutes.
So could you highlight the most important issues and then leave the details for a discussion later, please?
Really, we would love to use more of our resources that we know and love our kids, the teachers. The program is disappointing at best. And I would love for any of you to spend a little time on it and check it out, because I'm pretty sure every parent that I know that has is deeply disappointed in how it works. So if we could perhaps focus more on how do we use the teachers as our teachers, and stop frustrating our kids so much with this program that I think is actually potentially doing more harm in reducing their level of learning, because it's very frustrating.
Fortunately, the board is going to become more familiar with the e-school with the presentation today, and so I suspect that many of us will have some questions. So,
Wonderful. Thank you.
all right. Any other visitors or delegations who would like to address the board? Then we are going to move on to informational items, and the first one is a very fun thing, and it's our Wildcat Pride Awards.
All right, so this is something that we haven't been able to do as much of in the past probably 6+ months, but we've got a few award recipients today. And I'm going to start by calling up Riley Smith. Riley was nominated for a Wildcat Pride Award, and here's the description of why she was nominated. So before the emergency closure, Riley assisted at one of the elementary buildings. Riley learned that there were a few students struggling with the upcoming transition into 6th grade. Riley took the time to talk and reassure these students that Meyer Middle School is a positive place and people look to help and support each other. This helped the students feel more confident coming to Meyer Middle School. With these actions, Riley, you make a positive difference for others. Thank you for your leadership, compassion, and courage to help others.
Riley, one of the things about challenging times is there will always be some people who rise above it with grace and dignity and care and compassion for other people, and it sounds to me like you've done that. I commend you and thank you.
So our second recipient today is Tara Alvarez. You want to come up? Tara was nominated during the COVID-19 school district closure, and during the summer months, Tara served as a leader and star volunteer for our free meal distribution program. She continuously signed up to volunteer and served to assemble and pack meals, as well as organize family meal bags for our transportation routes. Her leadership and organization improved and strengthened our program, and the district is grateful for the time she committed to the program throughout the entire time from March through August. Our district was blessed with many different workers, but there was a rare occasion when Tara's name was not on the volunteer list to work each Tuesday and Friday. Thank you, Tara, for being a true volunteer. And our third recipient of the day is Todd Burnap. Would like to come up. During our COVID-19 school district closure and during the summer months, Todd was an integral worker to support and ensure the delivery of over 40,000 meals to River Falls students. He worked with the food service department, volunteers, and transportation staff to route and coordinate up to 7 delivery routes, bringing meals, food, and produce to our families from March through August. He routed new families, answered questions, picked up summer produce boxes, and never said no because he knew it was our students and families, it was what our students and families needed. Thank you, Todd, for truly being a team player and being a true example of our. Yeah. Okay.
Normally, we like to shake hands. Hard times will do that, if possible. All right, we will move on to informational item letter C. And I am going to just highlight to everybody that it is now, according to my computer, we'll go and give us another minute, 6:13. We do have another meeting at 8 o'clock, and so it would be good for us to finish this portion by 7:45 so that we have a moment to readjust. So I am going to be a careful timekeeper today. We are going to move into the Wildcat Roadmap updates. This is a time when we have had a chance to review the components of the Wildcat back to school plan. It also gives us a chance to be able to put a highlighter as well. Oh. I guess the superintendent wanted to.
That's okay.
Let him do that. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself here.
But I'm gonna follow orders on this one, and that is to be very brief. I would just remind the board that the work that we've been involved with in the decisions over the past several months have caused us to somewhat delay, we'll come back to it, that we conducted a community survey late last winter. And we got the final results of that like the first week of March, and I think we all know what happened within a few short weeks. Mid to late March, things changed dramatically, and so we're not going to discuss the survey, we're not going to get into any review of that, but I wanted to mention to the board as a future agenda item, we will come back to that, and in the interim, I will certainly send to you a copy of the results so that you have a chance to look at it. And then we'll put on a future board agenda, hopefully here coming up in October, we can talk a little more about the results and what we've learned from the results. I would also note that the time at which we asked the survey questions versus the time at which we are at now, upon a redo, if we were to send out a different survey now, we might have some different questions that we were asking. And so we'll make good use of the survey results, but we also know that with some shifting priorities given COVID, that there's some other things that we're working on in this district right now that are more pressing than some of the issues that we were asking questions about in that survey. Anyway, more to come on that. We'll bring it back to you in October, and I'll get you a copy yet this week so that you have a chance to look it over ahead of time.
Thank you. I'm not aware of any administrative reports, but would any of you like to jump in? Okay. And then, since I'm back on track, we'll continue on.
So school's been going pretty good. I actually was quarantined on the second week, so I haven't been in person, but from the people that I know that have been able to go, it's been pretty nice to be able to be back in school, even with the reduced number of students there. And with the layout of school right now, having the hybrid model, for me having to be home for 2 weeks, it was pretty easy to shift all my classes to be fully online. So that's a very strong advantage of having the format that we do now and having all those resources online. I'm excited to be back. I get to be back this week and be around people again.
We're glad you're well.
Thank you.
Another thing I should mention is that Mike Thompson, a board member, is not with us in person, but he is participating in this meeting through a computer technology. All right, now we are going to move to the update about the Wildcat Roadmap. And we are going to have a presentation about the curriculum and instructional programming in the e-school. One of the things about this fall is that we have more than one strategy for teaching and learning. Our virtual e-school is different from learning in person, and so it's important for the board to have an insight into what it looks like to be learning in an e-school curriculum, because it is different with different expectations and different roles and relationships compared to in-person school. And so first of all, thank you, teachers, for all of your work getting this going. We recognize it was a considerable effort just to get to this point. And we are anxious to learn from you and listen to you. Board members, my request is that we allow them to do their presentation, and then after that, we will have discussion. And I'll be keeping an eye on the clock. So, thank you, Jennifer, and your team.
All right, well, I'm just going to do a brief introduction, but this is really about, so many of our e-school staff are here this evening. Some are unable to come based on just their schedule. However, they want to share just a little bit about how they're taking the platform that we have and trying to support our students. And as we're getting familiar with that, some of the adjustments and the adaptations we've made and what they've done to try to put a human being behind just online learning, as so many students are experiencing now with the pandemic and shifts in the learning environment. So really just kind of a general overview. This isn't completely new information, but for our K2 platform, we're using that instructional platform of Edgenuity. Our 4K instruction, and Ms. Abby is going to share a little bit about that shortly, is not in an online platform. She's delivering lessons to those students in a somewhat asynchronous and then synchronous learning option as well. 3, 12, when we're looking at those grade levels, we are using OdysseyWare as the key platform. And then all of the online curriculum that we are using, the nice part about it is that we have a teaching face behind that platform. So students aren't just specifically in that online. So you're going to see a lot of faces, and I'm going to ask the group to introduce themselves as we begin the presentation as well, so that you get to be able to put names with faces. And then we have our students that are enrolled within the core content areas, and then they do have some rotational elective options as well, so that they can create a little bit of diversity within their coursework. So we've worked very hard to make sure that we are ensuring all of our high school students have an alignment to their transcripts, courses that they would take here at the high school should they decide they want to come back second semester. We're trying to make as seamless of a transition as possible. So just kind of a general overview. But starting with the 4K2 team, we're going to have that up there. But I'd really love it if our e-school teachers would just stand, real quickly introduce themselves, what grade level they teach, and then I'm going to let Ms. Abby kind of share a little bit about 4K. So why don't we start with Tara as our program support.
I'm Tara Alboris, and I am, as Jennifer said, the program support, so I'm handling secretarial and answering parent questions, attendance, all things secretarial to run the school, so that's my role.
Ms. Abby.
Yes, I'm Abby Ackerman, and I serve the school on the 4K and also kindergarten through the Montessori.
I'm Erin Kramer, and I am 3-5 Greenwood.
My name is Rachel Young Subura. I just got married, so I have to remember to say my last name is now Young Subura. I teach grades 3, 4, 5, and I have 1 6th grader at the Rocky Branch Virtual E-School.
My name is Jeannie Kinney, and this year one of my roles is to teach grades 3 through 5 with the Westsiders.
I'm Vicki Dance. I'm doing grades 9 through 12 in the high school. Hi, I'm Carrie LeBlanc, and I'm doing K2 for Greenwood.
Mary Miller, and I'm at the high school at 912.
Mr. Wells?
I'm Mr. Wells. I'm the elementary administrative liaison to the virtual school.
And our two middle school teachers and some of the other teachers did have some family conflicts this evening, so not everybody was able to come, but for those of us who were able to be here tonight, we just wanted to share a little bit about the program, so you can see both platforms and some of the features, some of our adaptations to date, and give you a little bit more. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Abby. Yep, I will.
All right, hello. As Jennifer said, or as I said again, I'm Abby Ackerman, and I am so grateful that I have the opportunity to teach these 4 and 5 virtually. My favorite thing right now is you're on mute, and then they're like, oh yeah, and they're really figuring out how to maneuver the computer, so that's great. This is an example of my schedule, first of all. So I use the creative curriculum and then the teaching strategies goals for my assessments and for my planning. So you'll see I have the areas that I focus on the left, learning outcomes, a lesson, and then materials included. And then I've also started doing learning bags where I send home every other Friday a learning bag that just provides some more hands-on opportunities for the families. And then the link there is my example schedule. So you'll see on here just the way that a 4K morning might work, or how it might look every day. So I meet with them daily. So I have 4K meetings, either whole group with the 5K, or I do small group lessons Tuesday, Thursday, and then I also have one-on-one meetings with them weekly. So I get to see them every day and interact that way, which is nice. There's brain breaks in there. Mondays I focus on language and practical life. Tuesdays I focus on math and practical life, and so on. Also provide time for the outside and large motor activities. And then I also included a link for a brief lesson, just so you can see what 4Kers look like on Zoom. And it's pretty fun. This is a rhyming lesson, and you have to, it's like you're on TV sometimes.
How many 4K?
I have 7 4K, and then I have 11 5K. That's okay.
Sometimes we've been experiencing not just the platform issues, but broadband and internet service issues have been quite frequent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something that we're working through right now too, is I will have students every now and then who freeze up, and then it's their turn to talk, and I'll say, I'm sorry, can you repeat that again? Or sometimes I'll say, oh, great, thanks for sharing, but then I'm afraid that maybe they just said their cat died, and I said thank you for sharing, so. I'd love to work those Zoom issues out so they don't freeze. It is just an interactive rhyming lesson where I had a basket of objects, and I would hold up a cat, and I would ask them, what are some things you can think of that rhyme with cat? And then I would have an object to match whatever they would say, or something different. And I also have a puppet. I don't think he's on here, but he's one of the favorites. Mr. Kitty is his name. And if I don't have him at one of my meetings, the kids are very worried, and they ask where Mr. Kitty went. And one day he was missing for 3 days. I think my own kids did him, and they were very concerned. But just being really interactive and engaging is something that I'm working on with the 4K. All right, am I good? You're good.
I'm Carrie LaPointe, and I am representing K2. We use Edgenuity, and this is kind of our schedule. If you look at the colored areas, those are times that we are on with children on Zoom or Google Meet. The blue across the top on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday are days that I meet with K2 all together. And then on Tuesday and Thursday, I have small groups for first grade, and then I have a small group second grade, and then a small group kindergarten. The purpose of the blue meetings are more social and emotional connections. The small group time is for that and possibly some content depending on what they're doing for the week. And then there's an individual meeting time that I schedule with them once a week and also discuss how things are going, what do they need help with. Sometimes I can do a quick little conferring session with them about something that they're doing. And during that individual meeting, if I see there's a lot of similar struggles, for example, we wrote a paragraph last week and that was quite a big deal for second graders. So during that small group time, I did some lessons on writing paragraphs and it was quite successful for them. They were very proud. But the white part of the schedule is where it's more flexible, so they can kind of decide when they want to do reading, when they want to do math. The program says it's about an hour for reading, and that's online and offline time, and an hour for math. We are finding the reading is taking a lot longer, so we're going to be doing some adaptations with that and see if everything in there is aligned with our district philosophy about spelling and grammar and all those kinds of things. So we'll be doing some adaptations as we go along. Right now, we're just kind of learning the program, and we have a lot of parents that'll give us input, and then we make some adaptations from that. My mask is like consuming me here. You want to go back to the next slide? And back on that last slide, those blue times are also times when we try to make connections with our home schools. So our principals from our home schools, our counselors, our school psychologists are dropping in on occasion and making those connections as well. The next slide, the Ingenuity is pretty colorful. It's got a lot of videos and interactive games. There is quite a bit of reading. Parents have stated that they are able to, in this program, they are able to click and it will read it to them. But that first slide on the left there shows kind of what it looks like when they come into the program. They have language arts, math, science, and social studies. If they click on one of those, and these aren't live links, but if they click on one of those, there's a landing page at the top. And one of the things that parents really struggled with in the very troubled times of last spring in teaching was all these different platforms that they had to learn and quick know and find. And so there's this landing page, and I created a Google slide that I can put there, and they can get into their Zoom meeting, they can get into different activities that I will cut and paste in there so that everything is right there for them. And that was really helpful for our parents. And then on the far right, that's kind of how you see it laid out for them. There's a module for reading and a module for math per week. And then they will click on each one of those and then get into some pretty colorful pages where they will, do some listening, and that's kind of the direct teaching that you would have in a classroom. And then they do more of a interactive activity where they get feedback on how they're doing, and then they're asked to do some independent work in a workbook. After that occurs, they're asked to actually upload certain things to teachers, and then we give feedback or grading. And it might work or it might not. It's at the bottom of the screen there where it says teacher feedback. If this one doesn't work, I can explain it to you.
Right, I am going to show you how we go in as teachers and correct student work that they have submitted, and then also provide feedback for them. So this is what our screen looks like when we're in the teacher app. And up here at the top, it says needs grading. And then all of my assignments that I need to correct are down the side.
There are a lot of
There's
them.
quite a few of them. If I click on a particular assignment, so I clicked on Edie's, parents have done a great job of learning how to upload their child's work. And then I can print it, I can look at it. I can come over here and I can write a type of comment. I can even record myself. Let's see if this works within Loom. Hi, Edie, you did a great job. We were working today to comparing things that are the same and things that are different. And then I can insert that over here. And then it is sent right to the child. So in the primary grades, I like to have more of my face as a way of communicating how they did. And then I can send that right off to them. And so they can see how they did. I can also do the grading part up here. I can get full credit, no credit. I can clear it. I can allow for a retry. So there's lots of really nice options to give students pretty immediate feedback. There's a lot of grading that needs to be done, and we're working through that as far as which is more practice and which is most important for us to view and provide feedback for. I hope this helps you understand how we give feedback to students.
And then here's the last page. I just wanted to show you science and social studies. In our district at the primary level, it's a lot more participation experiences in science and social studies than grading. 90%, those kinds of things. So these were some examples of science and social studies for first grade and second grade. First grade, they were asked to learn a little bit about cardinal directions. And so they were walking outside, they were using compasses. And then as a culminating activity, they were supposed to bury something in their backyard and then make a treasure map. So they had a ball doing that. In first grade, right now they're doing some classifying of leaves. So they're getting outside once again and having some experiences in science rather than a workbook page. And then in in social studies in second grade, they're learning about ancient Chinese folklore. And one of the activities that they were asked to do, or possibly do as an option, is make a dragon mask. So this is my wonderful student. She was parading around the neighborhood with these dragon masks with her brothers and sisters. So we've had fun. I have great families, very supportive families. We're a team, and we work hard to make it work the best that we can.
Just to reintroduce ourselves again, I'm Rachel Young, and I teach 3-5 plus 1 6th grader at Rock Branch.
I'm Erin Kramer, and I do 3-5 virtual for Greenwood.
And I'm Jeannie Kinney, and I'm doing 3-5 for Westside students, along with.
Okay, so we are using Odysseyware as our learning template. So the kids log in and it shows them the learning tests that they have to have for each of their courses. And then it also has projects and quizzes to go along with it. On our end, we see everything that they have to do, all their objectives for the week. On their end, they only see what's next, except for the projects they also see. So we decided to put together a weekly checklist so they could have an overview of the assignments that they're going to be doing for the week, so that they know that like that one assignment that is showing up on their dashboard isn't the only assignment that they need to do for the whole week, so that they can appropriately plan out their time. So we created one for each grade level, and then now this week we added, we have a video overview for each one of the courses. So we have 5 people in our group, so we each took one that is closest to our area of specialty to overview the courses for the week, so that the kids can kind of hear what they're going to be learning about before they actually dive in from us and our voices.
This is an example of a math lesson, and our math specialist who created it isn't here, so we're not gonna talk about it too much. No. She's doing a great job. Connie is our math coach for the district, so our students in 3-5 are getting some really nice, not only the math topics that are embedded in Odysseyware, but she's also doing some deeper, rich math tests in her Wednesday small group time with her students.
So my specialty is history and social studies. So I'm the one that's doing the overviews for that topic. But this is an example of history, and so the history and geography lessons, as well as the science lessons, they're a little bit more text dense than some of the other ones, but they also have a lot of interactive videos that go along with it. There's a lot of charts and graphs that go along with it, a lot of visuals. Something that we have, and math reminded me of it too, but we have started to talk to the kids about how to do class online, how to use the content and the information that's there, how to use keywords, how to use vocabulary, how to use all the manipulatives that are there to enhance their learning. So I think all of us in our weekly discussions with them have been doing a lot of information in how you take notes. We've created some notes guides for them to help navigate them through this. I mean, most of the kids are used to learning from a teacher and hearing it, so now we are all in the learning realm for how to do school differently.
So this is an example of how we responded to some parents asking for a little bit more support. So we created a virtual school classroom in a Google Classroom page. And here is an example of, so I'm doing a read aloud along with the Global Read Aloud project. So every day kids get a chapter a day, and they get to hear that. And this is the math component. And so like Erin was saying, there's a math video that is a teacher's voice talking and explaining one of the assignments during that week that's a little bit more complex and kind of talking them through that. And so this is a resource that they can go to whenever they're ready for it. And then they can watch it, and it will help them talk them through that process. So we have that for each of the subject areas. This is what grading looks like in 3-5. It's not quite as pretty as like primary one, not as colorful. But as you can see on the left, this is where the computer is grading it. It's just a multiple choice, and it just gives them points. And then the one on the right is the one that the teachers will look at. And so the students either have a short answer or they have a short paragraph. And on the assignment, there's a rubric that's given, and it tells them how many sentences or what should be included. And we are working through the kinks, like our parents have talked about a little bit. And I just want to say, as long as I'm here, thank you to the board for. I just think one of the things I'm most proud of in this district is that we offer parents a choice, and we have done such a lovely job of, I think, helping people feel safe at home. And I think that I'm really grateful that our families have that option, and they have that opportunity. And it's not without kinks, as you were saying. It's not without technical difficulties, but the most important thing to us is those kids. We want them to feel like we care about them. We want them to feel like they are connected to something bigger. we want them to still feel that connection to a human. And we want them to feel connected to their schools. So is Odyssey Wear perfect? No. Is there things we're still working on? Yeah. And so we've just asked parents and our families to give us grace and patience and communicate those things, and we're working through it. So as teachers, we just are happy to be with our students as much as we can, and still give families some options to learn and feel safe at home. So thank you for giving us that. One of the things that we do is some grade level groups, and like Karen was saying, we're doing connections with their neighborhood schools. This week, I had the best thing happen. One of my students, actually 3 of them, asked if they could start an online character council. They're going to have their own student council, and they asked if that would be okay, and could they elect leaders in each grade level. They're missing their school, and they're missing safety patrol, and they're missing those things, but they're just making the best of it. So we have some really amazing kids that are doing some pretty cool things. So I was really proud of them to do that.
The second bullet point is kind of what I do on my grade level groups. We have them twice a week for 30 minutes, one time on Monday and one time on Wednesday. And kind of the first half of my Wednesday small group, because I only have anywhere from like 7 to 13 kids, is we talk about our highs and our lows. And we connect with each other, and I always give students choice whether they want to say their highs or the lows, or if they just want to say a high, or if they just want to say a low, or if they want to pass altogether. So I'm trying to create that social emotional connection with kids, being able to be in a small group, trust each other, talk about stuff that's going well, whether it's virtual school or outside of school, and sometimes reminding them that this life right now in this kind of pandemic situation is not perfect, and it's okay to share that as well. So that's one way that I like to create kind of a social and emotional connection within my small groups. And I'm just as honest with them as they are with me, and I found that if I'm honest with them, they are ready to share back. So it's really important to form those bonds, because especially because I'm not seeing them every day. Like, for example, Abby, I think you said you see your students every day. I only see my students Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then one time for individual conferences. So anything to bring that sense of trust and community within their grade level is something that I'm finding really important in our grade level groups.
I agree. So I think the grade level groups are some of the most important meetings we have out of the week, and they're always super, super eager to be there, regardless of what we're doing. Typically what I do in mine is we have like 5 minutes of just chatting, and then it's only been 2 weeks, or 2 weeks of doing the all. I think like my routine is probably going to be on Monday, gonna be enhancing the language arts and maybe including some social studies on the Mondays. So what we've found is they have to do a bit of writing in the program. So we've been working on the main ideas on Mondays. So today in 3rd grade, we read the book Spoons, and then we worked on creating the main idea for the book Spoons with some post-it notes and manipulatives at home. That was my plan for 4th grade, but my computer decided to restart and lose its sound. So I had to join in with my phone, and I had them create their own stories. And then with 5th grade, we watched the animated short film, and then did the same thing with the main idea. And then on Wednesdays, we've been highlighting some of the math goals for the week.
Yeah, and so we want to stress that these grade level groups are different than the whole class groups, and that we are doing some academic work during these this grade level groups. So my examples are, I usually like to leave Monday open for like literature, language arts, kind of things like that. Today I did a lesson in all my grades on how to take notes properly, because they're doing so much reading, and because that it's hard to retain that information if you just stick it in your head. So we learned how to take notes and find important parts of the lessons and make sure we write down words that need defining, so we can have that with yourself when you are taking tests. And then Wednesdays, I've been doing after our highs and lows, we've been doing a lot of math. I'll look at the lesson for the week, and I'll see what are some important things that I think kids might struggle with, that I can help guide them through together as a group, so when they're independently doing this lesson, they feel more confident. So Wednesdays have been a lot of like math, and we've been doing adding decimals and rounding and things that kids struggle with. But I can help be their teacher and be there with them. So that's kind of what the grade level groups look like.
Can I ask a question really quick? Sorry, I know I'm not supposed to talk till the end, but I'm just, I'm like kind of impressed sitting here listening to this, but since you've only been doing this for 2 weeks, is it the goal to find more opportunity to be more face-to-face with the kids as time goes along, as you get more used to what you're doing and if the students are getting more used to what they're doing on their end?
So
Are you?
Sorry.
Yep.
I think our goal is definitely to be give the kids more personalized like learning opportunities. I think we would all love to see them more. However, we have the 3 morning meetings a week, and then we have the 3 grade level meetings twice a week. But then the rest of our schedule, for the most part, is filled up with the meeting with each one of them. So the 27, you have 31.
At 31.
And I block off a half-hour time, but that's kind of what we're talking about with this slide, is like those individual conferences, we're meeting with those kids personally, and I've done a math lesson personally, I've done a math lesson personally, I've done some main idea lessons personally. I think we've all kind of done that, and I think the more that we get into it, we can more articulate what their goals are, what their needs are. And then we're also adding in some help from some tutors to help connect with the kids more and like reach their needs in that way.
And I want to be honest with you with your question. And in a perfect world, I really want to have more time synchronously with students where we're with them or on Zoom or however that platform works. But I'm going to be totally honest here. There is so much to do on Odyssey. We're on our end to grade that I am up from, I go to work, I work till 4, I go home, I eat dinner, and then I'm still working on grading all of the things in Odyssey. We're until like 11 or 12, and then I go to bed and I do it again the next day. So in order to make more of those opportunities, which is what all of us want, I can promise you that, we need to still experiment how we are going to get grading done faster and how we're going to be able to handle this workload that students are giving us. To figure out basically how we can incorporate more time in our day to be with them.
So are you saying that that's like your biggest challenge then, is just kind of almost the paperwork? Not the paperwork, but the paperwork, the grading.
Yeah, and I'd say so. And I have been told by so many people I need to find a work-life balance, but that's just not possible right now. And I'm just thinking in my head that Rachel, we're only 3 weeks into the school year. It's going to come. You're getting help. We're starting to get lots of help as the needs arise. So we are working towards that goal of having more synchronous.
So do you feel like you're getting enough support?
Oh yeah, now
we have a really good team. We've been able to really rely on each other and help each other. But you know, learning new things isn't always easy.
That's for sure.
Learning new things takes a lot of time, and kind of just like you said, Jeannie, and what others have touched on, that we really appreciate the grace and the patience from our parents and our students.
Well, I think that would be a big challenge because you guys are learning and they're learning.
Right.
So, I mean.
Yeah. And parents are used to just trusting, right? You just trust, you drop your kids off and you trust that they're going to learn and grow. And now we're all working on this together. And it's going to take time, but sure. We'll get there.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt, but
No, that's all right. So we'll get back to the individual conferences. We touched a little bit about it, but just like Erin mentioned, we have I have 31 students. You have 27. How many do you have, Jeannie? 25. So we're doing 25 to 31 individual conferences a week. We slot them for 30 minutes, and they're basically one after another.
And this is not something that happens in a brick and mortar school.
No,
you do not get
a
one-on-one individual time with a teacher for a half an hour.
Yeah,
I love it so much. I learned so much about the kids, and then also I had time to work out some kinks in their learning.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say that these individual conferences are some of my favorite times of the week. My Tuesdays are filled, my Thursdays are filled. And I am so excited every Tuesday, Thursday, because I get to be with kids synchronous and we get to go through a lot of the things that we have up here. What I usually do on my individual conferences is the picture to the right. I have a bunch of questions that I ask them. I always ask them what's going well with virtual school. I ask them about the subjects that they feel that they're doing confidently in. And then we kind of talk about things that we're worried about, things that we're frustrated with. And when we get to this part, let's say they're frustrated with math, they'll say, oh my gosh, I didn't pass a quiz. This is a great time for me to go, and we'll actually go into their quiz and we'll look at questions together and we'll talk out the questions, and I give them the points back if they can talk out that question with me. Right? Because sometimes your best learning is done through talking with a teacher. Sometimes it's not shown by typing an answer in on a computer. So for most of the time, I will see kids go from like a 60% on their quiz to a 90% just because, oh, now I understand what the question is saying and I talked it out with my teacher. So I like to use my individual conferences for that. And then I always like to pull up, my favorite question I ask on my individual meetings is number 5, which is what is something that you are proud of in your learning? And I really like to make it clear to kids that this is something new, this is something different. I tell my 5th graders, you've been in school for 5 years and now you're doing school a whole other way. It's like you're in kindergarten again. And I always stress how important it is for these kids to be proud of themselves and proud of what they're doing. And I always tell them to pass it on to their parents too, because their parents and their learning coaches and their guardians, they're doing a great job with them. Because we really appreciate the parents that are helping them. Oh, this is my slide again. Okay. Yeah, so morning meetings, the grades through, but these are our whole group that we do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Monday and Wednesday are more just the teacher and the students, but Fridays, kind of like Jeannie mentioned, we have some special guests come in, like the school site and the counselor and the principals come into my next Friday meeting. But the structure of this meeting is like a morning meeting would be in a normal school. And a morning meeting has a couple of different components. We have a morning message, kind of like the picture. I always kind of show them a message, stuff they can talk about in the chat, because in Zoom we can go in a chat and do things. So we talk about stuff like that, and it gives them a way to connect that way. And then we get to a greeting and a share, which is our second part of our morning meeting. You say hello. You say your name and your grade, and lately we've just been saying name because everyone's kind of getting to start to know each other. And then we have some get to know you questions. Some of them, like recently, since it's still week 3 or 4, we've just been doing kind of like, what's your favorite food? Or if you were an animal for a day, what would it be? Just kind of those silly questions. And as the year progresses, we'll kind of dive down deeper, since you need to establish that trust in the class, and then we can dive deeper into questions. And I'm thinking, things like, how are you a good friend? What can you do to help out your community? How are you staying safe? So we want to start out with those surface level questions, then dive deeper as the year goes on. Lastly, what I usually do, and I don't know if this is the same for the ladies right next to me, but I do an activity, because it's really important to remember that school is fun, and school doesn't always have to be about academics. All right, so we do super fun activities. Some things I've done in the past are scavenger hunts, and you should see the kids while I say, we did one this morning, and I said, go find something with a face on it. And so I'd see kids bring back skeletons, books, and somebody brought their baby brother that was born 3 years ago. And we share with each other, and they get so excited. I always say, who wants to share? And everybody waves, so I have to go to my little sticks and pick out names. And we do things like categories, and that's kind of like a brain thing. And my favorite activity has been shapeshifter, which is they shut their cameras off. They have 3 minutes to put on a funky disguise, come back, and we all look at our fun kind of dress up area things. And that's something that really gets them happy and really gets them motivated, I think. And it's always funny that like when we're doing these activities, no one sits out. No one says, I don't like this activity. It's kind of a breath of fresh air in a world to them that kind of maybe seems kind of scary right now.
Setting the stage for a great day of academics.
Yeah. So thank you for
listening. So I'm going to just kind of step in and share some information from the middle school. Here's our staff for the secondary team. I'm going to turn it over to Mary and introduce a moment or two. Here's kind of a snapshot. Odyssey Wear is going to remain the same for grades 6 through 8 as it is for grades 3 through 5. here's kind of a snapshot of the day at a glance for both Brianne and Carly at the middle school level. And they've done a great job with the two of them splitting their caseload. So one of them works with 6th grade students and part of the 7th grade group. The other one has the remaining 7th grade students and then 8th grade. And they've broken their TAs apart, so they're actually conducting 3 different TAs throughout the different days, mirroring it to what happens at my middle school, building those same connections as well with the staff. On the other days, they again follow the same very similar format that 3-5 just talked about with those individual conferences for students. They have a much heavier caseload with 80 students right now at the middle school between those 2 grade levels. Or between those 3 grade levels and those 2 teachers. So one of the things that we're working on is trying to provide additional support for them, even the potential of an additional staff member at the middle school to help balance that load a little bit more. They don't have quite the time that they would like to be able to do those individual conferences and to provide those students with that formative feedback. Again, the counselors also for that student connection, the 3 counselors over at Myra Middle School have blocked time on that Wednesday distance learning day so that students can sign up for conferences with their counselors or to do different connection opportunities with them as needed. So they're available to the students at all the time. One of the things that I'm real proud of Brianne and Carly for working on, they recognized early on that for, say, the 6th grade, 7th grade, or 8th grade curriculum didn't exactly align to the specific courses over at Meyer Middle School. So they actually developed some units right out of the gate. They worked with all of their colleagues over at the middle school to make sure that the 6th grade units aligned to what was being taught in 6th grade over at Meyer. And so they did some early on customization in OdysseyWare. So it wasn't just the straight OdysseyWare curriculum that was there. They customized it right up front and out of the gate. Same with 7th and 8th grade. Same thing that they did with language arts was to break it apart to follow the middle school model with a language arts class and a literature class. So they would say lots to grade, but they also, instead of the 5 classes we were anticipating students get, they gave students all 6 classes because of the language and the literature, math and science, social studies, and then more opportunity. We've got some paraprofessional support at the secondary level, a little bit of a overload support for Carly and Brianne as well as middle school. But yes, as you heard it, the academic tutors is something that is rolling out next week. Additional help for students in that one-on-one or small group setting. Just to support more content assistance, whether it's Algebra 2, whether it's algebra, whether it's French. We even scored a French tutor. We're extremely excited about that. Working with students at the high school that need NHS hours that wanted to volunteer maybe for 1 day a week through the first semester to provide some middle school math tutoring or even some 4th and 5th grade tutoring. We've got some teachers wanting to volunteer for that too, so we're looking at that program but they're doing a great job, really with that personalization, customization, to really make sure we have a tighter alignment at the middle school. So with that, I'll let Mary and Peggy briefly talk about the high school as well.
Thank you guys for having us tonight. It's been very interesting learning here for both Mary and myself. Coming from the Renaissance Academy, OdysseyWare was something that I'm very familiar with, and I thought I could consider myself an expert on. And in the first 2 weeks with 75 students now in OdysseyWare, whole new world in terms of logistics, in terms of understanding what needs to be done, what can be done, what can't be done. Like, for example, we learned adjusting the calendar once a class starts messes up due dates, which our kids then see class assignments that are like, well, this is due today, and we have to keep reminding them, no, it's not, because we adjusted the date. OdysseyWare's algorithm doesn't adjust it once the class started. So it's little things like that. There's just kind of
and the changing of courses, they weren't like ahead of the game like the middle school, some of the alignments, but
yeah. But in terms of our schedule, very similar to the middle school, we just, we're asking our students to work for approximately an hour a day per class that they're taking. Give or take, it'll vary on something probability and statistics, they might need to spend more than an hour than they might in another class, but we try to encourage them to do a minimum of 4 hours, and so that's what we're really monitoring to make sure that they're making adequate progress in the classes. The grading is the same thing for us. If you think about it, I think I did the math. If I spend 15 minutes a day on each kid, whether that's grading in Odyssey, where messaging them, chatting with them in Google Chat, setting up a Zoom, anything like that, it works out to like 10 hours with no breaks, nonstop, for the 35 kids that I'm in charge of. So it's just a logistics in terms of time. But as the kids start to become more independent and understand how the program works, I've used the analogy of if you picture a marathon, at the start of a marathon, how everybody's grouped together and they're all trying to get their final position, but then once everybody sets their piece, they're spread out and it's easier to manage. And I think that's what we're starting to see this week, is that the kids are hitting the ground, they kind of know what they need to do, they know how to reach us, they know how to contact us. We're able to kind of keep on top. We have our para, Jenny Shelstead, helping us with the grading.
We're very, very thankful for that, because the grading is
that's tremendous.
If we don't grade in a day, it's probably 300-400.
Easy to grade. Pros are that I like the program, we set up a Google site as kind of what we call like our home base, and I don't know if we have. Oh, good. Really nice, easy, basically it's kind of like a launch pad for our students. It's kind of like the school website, but a little easier because it just focuses on just what they need to know. The most important thing is it's got some tabs for Zoom meetings, so when they come every morning, they have a morning advisory. Think of it like Focus, but with a little bit of a different emphasis, because this is where we're trying to build a relationship. So then they can click on that button and that takes them right to that Zoom, so they don't have to track down that Zoom link, they don't have to remember the password. So that was something that we hope to organize, help them organizationally. At the bottom of the website is where we are adding resources. So we've got clickable links there for all the different sites that they're going to be using every day. And then below that, we're also adding in additional like tips for learning online. We were really thrilled to learn about Google Drive's new feature Workspace, which helps organize your folders. Really nice tool. So we put that up there and kind of explain that to our high school kids.
And the library website will be up there too, because now kids are getting into more research, like their English. So just to be able to have all that there that they can go, because we have really great resources with the library. So they could do their research papers and access everything online. So it's still a work in progress. But.
Yeah, this is definitely, I tell the kids it's under development, it can change, but they also, what's nice is with this Google site, I can have a document that's what I call the weekly announcements, and I can put whatever announcements I need to for both of us to be on the same page and cover in our advisories. So that, and then the kids that, if they're in band, instead of the advisory, because our band and advisory was a time conflict, they can still find that easily and refer to the announcements for the day. We started added in some things for the parents, but I don't want to reinvent the wheel because of the school website. This is really about helping the kids find what they need so that they can get done what they need to get done. But what is also nice about Google Sites is that you can customize and create like a site just for a student. I have a particular SPED student that we have a home-based site for him that has his information just for him, and we've created like a to-do list for him so that every morning in advisory, I have him one-on-one for a few minutes just to go through, okay, I want you to get this assignment in this class, this assignment in this class, this assignment, and then I check in with him in the afternoon to see how he did, and we can actually cross off that little to-do list. So that's kind of some more fun things, maybe. Covering.
Yeah, we call it advisory, but it's Focus, same thing. And we do that every morning. That's how we check in, do attendance. And I know we've been trying to kind of get to know the kids too. I mean, I know they're high schoolers, so they're, Some of them would rather, you can tell someone just woke up, I mean. So it's kind of, but it's been kind of fun, it's like, my 10th grade group is really chatty, and sometimes they'll play a game, just something real quick, just to kind of get them going, and they'll be chatting in the side box, because they miss the social aspect of school as well, so. We'd like to do more with that, but right now, that's about, and we did an end of day Zoom, and we had some kids coming for games and stuff, but, yeah.
It's
Trying to
just
at
a
least-
packed schedule where there's a lot we'd like to do that we just don't have the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
If that makes sense.
Eventually.
Yeah.
So Peggy, you have 35, and how
Yes.
many do you have?
Well, it's 73 or 73, so that would make you have 37.
Sorry, I don't remember.
I can't even.
Because I just
math.
got added.
37. Yeah.
So 35 and 37, but you have para helping you?
Correct, Jenny Shelsted is our para, and she does the bulk of the grading for us. She goes through and grades anything that needs to be like just verified. She's letting us handle the projects and the longer essay responses and research papers and the like. But that has really helped us keep up on that end so the kids can keep moving, because honestly, what it does, stop a kid if they don't pass a quiz at a certain percent point, 80%. It'll stop them, and they need attention or help from the teacher, so she can step in and reassign questions so that they can redo the quiz, just the assignment, the numbers that they missed, or
Yeah,
message
just
her.
resubmits them.
Yeah.
And then I also we let them know too, like if, for some of the things, if they would rather do a video or, if they're not like understanding the questions, and then just go back and just talking to them. They just need that, because it's hard when they don't have can't just raise their hand. So we're trying to get those kind of needs met.
Yeah, I think coming from a teaching situation, that is what I'm missing the most, is to be able to actually deliver content. Right now, it kind of feels like I'm overseeing content. But as we start to figure out our schedule a little better, and now we have a math teacher that's coming to help with some of the grading and some of the one-on-ones with the math. So the more support we have, the French.
Like if we don't know any French, I feel French.
Of all the languages, I studied French. So yeah, every little bit of support that's been brought in has been adding to it, so that eventually, at least in our minds, we want to add more and more synchronous opportunities. And kind of shift away from being heavily dependent on the program itself.
So you'll see that up there. Actually, I put on there so that you would see it as well. Molly Coughlin from the high school, we're moving her to a full 1.0 FTE. And she came on last Thursday, sort of Thursday night. We did some Odyssey Word training at like 7 by the time the schedules kind of settled down. So she's now familiarizing herself with the program, getting to know the students, looking at the classes. We have students in a broad variety of different math classes, and so that was some of the support that we worked to bring to both Peggy and Mary to allow them a lot of the other work that they're doing to continue to give them a little bit more time. As Molly comes on, she's really going to be able to provide a lot of that feedback to students just in time, which is, as Peggy said, acknowledging some of that work, which was brought up as a concern. When students have to stop, oftentimes the program is blocking the student from moving forward because there's something that needs to have some kind of formative instruction or an intervention to make sure that the students are on the right track and have mastered the material, rather than doing a large portion of material incorrectly. It gives the teachers that opportunity to get in and do some formative instruction, responsive teaching, get them back on track so that they can build on that foundation. So, but, and then, I was gonna say, I just put a couple clips of some different content that some of our students are in. We tried at the high school level, the counseling team and Lisa Boyle have worked tirelessly as well to help make sure that we're keeping all of our students enrolled in courses for their graduation as closely aligned to the courses that we're going to be, those students were going to actually have if they would have been here physically at River Falls High School. Could we do it to 100% accuracy? No. But we tried to do everything we could to be as close as possible for first semester so that students could go back and be ready for second semester. But we're continuing to build that out to make sure that we are dotting our i's and crossing our t's for students, to make sure that all of our 12th graders, 11th graders, 10th graders, and 9th graders stay on track to post-secondary goals and plans. So the team has done a phenomenal job, and I would say I couldn't ask for a better group. I mean, exclamation point to the nth degree. But please know they are working their hearts out because they care so much about trying to do what's best for kids. And we're learning and we're growing as we go. We're finding new things. The weekly PLC meetings are so powerful because they're finding out what's working, what's not working. Some things are going great at certain levels, some things aren't going great at other levels. But they're talking through it. They're coming up with solutions. They're being problem solving. Individuals and groups, and the brain power that's in this room, and not everybody's here, has been absolutely amazing and absolutely humbling to work with. They are an awesome team, and is it perfect? No, we're hitting glitches here and there, and if it's not the program that's glitching one day, you know, we think we have something fixed, and then we turn another coin, then it's the internet that's crashing, or the bandwidth that's just not supporting a specific area where our students are at. And so we're exploring, you know. Kari today says, I'm gonna try Google Meet instead of Zoom this afternoon just to see if it works, you know. But then they don't stay in the dark. If they figure something out and solve a problem, they immediately share it with the team so that everybody has the solution at their fingertips. So I haven't seen a group of staff work so hard, and, you know, is it gonna keep getting better? That is our goal, because they won't stop trying to do what's best for kids. Bottom line. So.
I have a question real quick. Sorry, Stacy, is there a way to create, so some of the things that we hear that teachers want to do and the things that the parents and the students want really match, right? So is there a way to create opportunities where our teachers aren't spending so much time correcting assignments that are auto-filling for them anyway?
Well, that we found was a glitch on there was some button that was disabled, which was supposed to have been taken care of by last Friday, but I can't confirm that to 100% because we haven't had another button or anybody else mentioned that. We believe that the company is taking care of that particular issue that we found last
But
week.
is there a way to create more space for teachers to do less correcting, adjust the curriculum a little bit so we can do the things that teachers want to do and our students and family want to?
Yes.
But they're stuck in the curriculum right now.
What we had kind of said from the beginning is we needed to spend 2, 3, 4, we kind of wanted about 4 weeks of let's explore this, let's see where we're at. We're still learning new things because there's still things in the program that weren't there the first week or the second week. So as we're learning those particular nuances, that will allow us to look at, okay, so what can we take out, what don't we need, what do we need that completely aligns with exactly what our essential standards are within the district, and then how can we make it so that it's better for our teachers as well as better for our students, which in turn will be better for our families. So those are all, in fact, we're extremely excited about this Wednesday because, you know, the K-6 in-service that we have, our kids are at the secondary level, they can work on their assignments or they can take pause, but we as a staff for K-12 are going to use that as a full in-service day to start working a little bit deeper on areas where we can grow, how we can prioritize grading, how we can look even more specifically at making future adjustments. Will it happen come next Monday? Probably not, but over time, it'd be nice if we can build in, you know, additional supports and do adjustments, you know, come October and so forth. But we know we have a couple of powerful in-services that are going to help us continue to make this better as we move forward, which means more synchronous opportunities, more customization in the program. And there's a couple nuances regarding some of those program customizations, kind of like with the middle school did. But I think that we're working our way through defining what's the best way to do that, so we can continue to improve and deliver an even better product to our students and to our, for our teachers.
Okay, hurry. Hurry, the teachers are, I'll tell you this, the teachers are doing a great job. For those of you that don't know, I have 3 kids in this virtual e-school. And their teacher is Katie, and she is incredible. So she's the 3 through 5 teacher that's not here. She is incredible. She still can't get my kids to talk in an individual meeting, which is fine. They will by Christmas. I'm okay with that. But it's interesting to hear the teachers talk, because the same thing the parents are talking about and the kids are talking about, and the quantity of reading and the time they're spending online and the issues that we're having with the platform are the exact same things that you guys are talking about. So I just hope we could let our teachers loose on it sooner rather than later, because that's where the power is in the teachers that we have connected in this program. So hurry.
Yeah, to that, I would just add that to not only appreciate the teachers that jumped into a whole new ballgame for themselves, so too have the parents and the students. And our parents have been extremely respectful and polite and patient, and we appreciate that, just as was the case tonight when you were pointing out some things that are becoming a little more frustrating. And I guess my message would be to say clearly, we are listening. We will continue to listen, and we will continue to tweak and refine. And the thing we are going to be really careful to do is to not get our mind so locked in on, we have to stay true to this Odysseyware program, that we find ourselves with blinders on, that we're not going to be able to think outside the box. We're not going to do that. We are listening and we're learning together, and we are going to continue to try to make this better. It will be better. And we appreciate everybody's patience with that, and belief that that's not lip service, that we mean that, and it's going to get better. There's some really good things happening. I don't think we should ever lose sight of that right now, but we also recognize we need to continue to listen and learn, and things will continue to improve.
And just one quick snapshot, specific to 4th grade social studies. And Erin and I had this conversation today, just because we had our initial beginning of the year one-on-one, and she's kind of taking the lead in that department. We know in 4th grade, we have some other state standard requirements, Wisconsin State History, Act 31. So how are we going to build that in? We have to build that in through customizing and personalizing some lessons, which means taking out stuff that's in there and making it so that we're covering the content that we know we're delivering in our district. And what you as a board have said, we approve the academic standards, Jennifer, every year that you present to us in August, and those are part of the standards. So we have to guarantee that we're covering that for you. And that's just a real quick example of what we know is yet to come.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I think Erin could teach geography or history in Erin, right?
Yep.
Am I right? Or Erin, you get geography history? I thought you were geography history. Geography history?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. That is a hard subject. So I think my kids would love to listen to you teach them about the Magdalene Strait or whatever it was that they were learning about. I'm not even sure. I was elected the worst teacher in our mini school last week. So that's super embarrassing. But they would listen to you learn about it and get that curriculum and meet that standard more than they would by reading 5 pages. My kids have learned to command and find something, to find the answer and cut and paste it. But I bet you could tell that story completely in a way that they would go, cool, right? And that's what we want. I know we need space and time to do that. I completely get that, and I think we're on the same page with that. So I appreciate that.
Like, even from the teacher standpoint, like every year we start out, we have a plan, and then we always change the plan.
Yeah.
Because we see the kids that are in our classroom, and we move and adjust, and it's we're using the curriculums that we have, and like we're already moving and adjusting. I mean, those videos that we are doing for 3-5, I sat down to do mine for the 4th grade history, and I was going through it. I'm like, you know what, I can't do this, and I texted my team, and I'm like, can we do a project rather than a test? Can we change things? And we kind of had to do a workaround. you maybe have seen it and making it work without a sewer. But I think that's kind of like, as our brains start freeing up and we start relaxing and getting more used to the program, and catching up on grading, our brains are freer to come up with those new ideas and then to get them out to the kids.
One quick question about technology, just are we having any severe issues with the kids who are enrolled in the virtual school not having the appropriate access? And then I heard a little bit about, maybe something crashing here or there. Are there ongoing issues that the teachers are having? I'm just curious to know what that's like.
I'll speak to it. It was weird. The first week Zoom worked just great with my kids. And then all of a sudden, I don't know, other schools probably all started their virtual programs. But the last 2 weeks, Zoom it's just been awful, and it's been different kids, so it hasn't been consistent. Zoom. Today I tried Google Meet, and it was great. So I don't know if it's the devices, if it's broadband in our city. We're trying to problem solve with that a lot because that's so important to the kids to make connections with us and try to figure out, what more can we do to help, figure out those problems.
And it's frustrating to know that a lot of these technical issues are something that I can't go and fix. Like, it's frustrating to know that this is out of my control. I'm sorry that Odyssey Where isn't working. I'm sorry that your computer has no sound. And it's just frustrating to know that we can't go fix it. But we do have some help resources. I know that some of my parents say, oh my gosh, the Zoom isn't working, what can I do? Or my charger is not working, what can I do? And there's a tech request form that I send them out, and they've been successful filling out a tech request and getting help that way.
Okay.
So there are resources available to parents that will be able to help them with those technical issues. It's not going to be right away, but I'm hearing that within a day or two, they're being responded to and helped out.
Okay.
I'm keeping an eye on the clock, so are there any other board members who would like to say anything? Otherwise, I have 3 quick comments. The first one is, thank you for the amazing collaboration that I'm hearing in terms of problem solving, in terms of working with students and parents, with all of you together. It's fantastic. Jennifer, thank you for your creativity and being responsive in terms of, I'm not sure where you're finding them, but finding the people to help with French and to finding people to help with math so that you're expanding the number, but helping people with resources to be able to meet the needs of the students. And the last thing I'm going to say is, I don't care how great or how poor curriculum is, it always comes to life because of the teachers teaching it. And so these things that are working, this was a very thorough presentation here. And it's because you are making this curriculum come alive for our students. And yes, you will grow with it, just like we always do. And I want to thank you for all of that. I also want to make sure to reiterate what Jamie is saying. For anybody who's watching this, if there are lingering issues that haven't been addressed, the district is listening, and we can deal with those on an individual basis, but not at a big meeting like this. So now we are going to move on to action items, and I'm going to push us through here. So, and it sounds to me like you have grading to do, so you have to stay.
Thank you. They're all.
Be home. Yes. Okay, at this point, we have meetings of the regular Board of Education meeting from August 17. We have meeting minutes from the special Board of Education meeting on August 24th, as well as the 31st. We have special Board of Education meeting minutes from September 8th, as well as September 14th. We also have bills that have been submitted for payment, as well as employment recommendations. So at this point, do we have a motion to approve minutes, bills, and employment as presented?
Second.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you, Todd. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. And Mike, are you voting?
Yes, I say aye. Can you hear me?
The motion is carried, and we will register Mike's vote at a later date. All right, now, as we do every week, we make a consideration if we need to change going to pivot from the existing learning environment. Mr. Benson, do you have a presentation?
Yep, so again, we'll try to keep a very similar format to the same presentation that we give weekly related to regional COVID numbers as well as our local school district. By now, I'm sure many people have heard about the spike in COVID cases specific at the university here in River Falls. We'll talk about that here in a second. Same slide that we've had in the past indicating what we've been told in the past that would indicate whether or not we needed to close our schools. These two things, the burden that currently is at 129.7 out of 100,000 population, and secondarily, the inability for DHS to do contact tracing. Please appreciate it. This is dated the 16th. That's the most current numbers that were available on their website as of today. And that number of 129, no doubt, will increase soon as the numbers are updated because of some recent cases at that university. So the update here is to say, well, again, that number is still an okay number, but subject to change. Public health is currently having a very slow process and delays in both of these two categories. Their ability to do contact tracing and to identify the newly identified cases, both of these two categories here. There's a 24-hour rule that's listed here, and they're having a hard time getting to all of that contact information. So obviously, that's a concern, and I'll talk more about that in a second. Again, the dashboards, I don't go to these, but I want to reference them so that if people wanted to look at the dashboards themselves, they can. I take a snapshot off of the Pierce County website. Notably here, that's dated the 19th for these bottom two grids. And the top blue is dated the 18th. So again, appreciate that there are a couple days delayed, but this was updated as of today. It was updated, and the update provided today was based on the numbers from those two dates. So big spike. Big spike. You can see in the past under the number of active, confirmed, and probable cases, the highest number we had seen was in that 57-ish range. And we see this big jump over 200. Same on this chart, the number of new confirmed and probables, big spike, so that's a concern. New for this slide that I've not shared with you in the past, I wanted to point out, at the WRF, they have a link on their website. And so just to illustrate that through Friday, that does not even include Saturday, Sunday, or today, but through Friday, that 133 cases has much to do with why these numbers look the way they do. It's massive implications. Well, I circled, this is per day. On the 14th, 17. Number of positive test results received on this day. 17, next day 11, next day 14, 34, 48. It's a total of 133 just at the University of River Falls. Point is, let's park that in our thinking. Let's keep that in mind. They are in our front yard. That's concerning. But they are, to some extent, some would argue, they are a community and amongst themselves. The concern is those same students, they're in our community. They're at our stores. They might be employed. There are those implications. St. Croix, again, different dashboard, but similar in some increase in active cases. How does the Minnesota model apply to the current numbers? Again, disclaimer down here, appreciate admitting that these are a little bit outdated, but based on what we had at our fingertips, that's where we would be at as in-person learning for elementary students, hybrid for secondary. started last week to show you the positivity rate and said that it's important, keep your eye on that one, because the more tests that are administered, when the rate of positive cases starts to climb, that's a bad indicator, and that number is increasing. There's Pierce County and there's St. Croix, similar positivity rates. Here's our district status report, so drilling in specifically on our staff absences as of today. We're using the term quarantine and isolation. Quarantine, staff who are not able to work because they have been identified as having close contact to somebody that's been confirmed to have COVID. Versus isolation, staff not able to work because they are seeking a COVID-19 diagnosis or a member of their household is seeking that diagnosis. 7 in both categories, quarantine and isolation. COVID positive, staff not able to work because they have tested positive. Again, we're being a little protective, not to point specific to numbers, but we have fewer than 5. Student absences, 49 are out due to COVID symptoms. 24 are out due to a household member having symptoms. 41 are out due to close contact. And again, fewer than 5 students have actually tested positive. And so, every week on our agenda, you're asking me to bring a recommendation as to whether or not we would pivot or change from our current hybrid model. I want to reassure you that in the decision, I would always consult with AZ Snyder, our the Director of Health at Pierce County. I talked with her as recent as this afternoon and also on Saturday. And we are in agreement that currently there is no recommendation to pivot or change. The numbers at the university, yes, they are concerning. The contact tracing is a new challenge, yes, that's concerning. But the concern has somewhat of an isolation to the university campus and to those students, and we're not seeing that same level of COVID positivity rate with our students and with our staff here in our district. I think I'm going to go on record to say tonight, to say 2 things. One is, in fairness to our team, our administrative team and our task force, we have not had a recent conversation about what I'm going to say right now. And I owe it to that process and to that team to have input. But I want to share with you that one of the things that we will consider if and when we need to pivot and shift gears away from our hybrid, and in this case right now, the trajectory and the rate of concern would not lead us to pivoting where we're going to bring all students back to school. The debate now is if and when we would shift to having students at home. And the next stage that we will discuss and consider, not for tomorrow, not for an immediate pivot, but I just want to kind of go on record to say this, that one of the options that would be beneficial to the county in their ability to do contact tracing, which is so critical to stop the spread. So if I test positive and I was within 6 feet for 15 minutes or more to a number of different people, we have to exclude those people from our population because they may be asymptomatic. They might not have symptoms, but I might have passed on COVID to them. So the contact tracing is that we got to contact and trace that population. The stickler with all of this right now is not our school district. The stickler in the contact tracing is because of the university and the number of students at the university level. So one pivot or change that we potentially could make and that we will consider is that in the future, one pivot or shift could be taking our 7th through 12th grade hybrid students and pivoting them to at home, 5 days a week, continuing to serve K-5 or K-6 here at school. What does that accomplish? It erases the need to do, not completely, but it minimizes contact tracing resulting from our 7th through 12th grade interaction with each other. It would greatly reduce that potential need for the county to do all that contact tracing. Wouldn't eliminate it, but it would greatly reduce it, thereby relieving some pressure from their ability to continue the contact tracing. We aren't there yet. I just wanted to say that that's an option on the table for consideration as we move forward. There are other options. Secondly, people are asking, would we shut down one building or would it be all or nothing? Would we shut down for the rest of the year? Not necessarily. At the university, by example, they've said they're shutting down the university right now for 2 weeks to see if they can change this trajectory and get it to stem itself, plateau, and head back the other way by locking things down tight. Maybe that's an approach that we take as well with whatever shift or pivot we make, is that maybe it's a shift or a pivot for 2 weeks or a month, and then we're able to go back to hybrid. Who knows? We'd all love to have all students coming back 5 days a week. So not to muddy the waters, to be very clear, there's no recommendation here today, this evening, to change away from our hybrid model. We are working very closely with DHS. They are not recommending to us at this time that we change anything, nor do we feel inclined to do that, aside from what the DHS opinion is right now. We continue to collaborate with the DHS on this recommendation.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
One really quick comment. It's one thing for the university to shift and for 2 weeks they can go online and come back. That's fairly common. It's a totally different thing for this school district, as we just learned, to switch to go totally online for 2. This is not a small issue. Universities and colleges are doing it, switching on and off, and they'll probably do it throughout the year. And it's a whole different type of instruction, different type of student, different type of motivation. So for us to make that decision, it's a huge commitment. I'm not arguing either way. I'm just saying, so if parents think, well, we can just throw the switch, let them learn from home for 2 weeks, bring them back. No, that's a much, much bigger thing for us. So if we decide to do that, that's a pretty substantial decision we got to make.
And I am going to implore this community to be careful, to be responsible, to wear their masks, to stop the spread of this disease. And I am underlining the fact that the university needs to take a strong role in doing this. It's hard to be an online university student. It's a whole lot harder to be a student learning to read online. We need our community to step up and help with this, to protect our students.
Stacy, on that note, real quick, the university has done a really good job of responding immediately, earlier than many other universities. Mm-hmm. They moved everything online. I mean, they couldn't have responded any more quickly or really, they're on top of it, right? So they have done a really good job this week and made a really quick decision about that. And I agree with you, the community is a big thing with that. Where does sports fit into this? So with the spike at the university, and then in turn, it's going to move into the community. Is there any conversation about fall sports having to change around?
Right now, there's no recommendation to change from the board's decision related to fall sports. Okay. I would anticipate that this school board would have a very difficult time in saying, okay, now we need to pivot and not have high school kids at school, but we're going to go ahead with sports. I would doubt that this board would go down that path. And so I'll say that out loud for those that need to hear that. But at this point, there's no recommendation to shift away from fall sports nor from our current hybrid model.
Okay, and are we doing okay with 114 students out for extended times and 14 staff? Are we doing okay keeping those students connected with their curriculum and things like that?
I would give it an okay on a scale of excellent to good to okay to rotten and really, really bad. I would say, let's be honest. Let's not pretend that it's outstanding, but it's also not our teacher's first rodeo on how to serve students that are at home. We've done this for the last 100 years. It's just that now the numbers make that different. Kids that have been home in the past with the flu or a broken leg or whatever, or on vacation, that's one thing. But the fact that the numbers are higher, is that becoming more challenging for our staff? Yes.
Okay, and we're doing okay on subs still with 14 staff members out.
Yeah,
I can speak to that real quick. We've seen a 24% increase in the number of absences when we compare the first 14 days of school this year to last year. And we have our fill rate is actually 5% better. We've had 5 less on-field positions. We've used 2 less hot subs. So that indicates that right now, the permanent sub strategy that we're using and the ability for us to have our short-term subs is working. The concern becomes when we have teachers out for longer periods of time, maybe subject to a close contact quarantine versus home for a short period of time while they're seeking diagnosis. Those 2 things is probably where it's tricky. But through the first 14 days, we're actually at a better fill rate this year than we were last year.
Anything else? We are actually going to move on and we're going to go to E right now. We may come back to C or D, but that might wait till next week. So at this point, do we have a motion to approve the second reading of policy 443.1 related to the student dress code to include wearing a mask requirement? To make sure that everybody remembers, this is the same procedure that we are using right now in our schools, that adults and students are wearing masks unless they have a medical dispensation from the physician. This is simply placing it within our policies to be able to make sure that we are on strong legal ground. We passed the first reading last week. This is the second reading in front of the board. Do we have any questions or comments?
I would just add the comment, to be clear, the governor's public mask face covering order expires
28th or something like that.
28th. And we are going on record in this district through this policy to also make the statement here and now that when the governor's order expires, we still have our rule here in our house. This is our house and we're going to continue to require wearing a mask when you're in our house, regardless of whether there's a continuation of a governor's order or not.
And that's part of our Wildcat Roadmap plan too that we've adopted.
And when things hopefully resort to normal, will we strike that from our policy? If everything is good and everybody's back to school.
Yep,
and we
the
get
policy's written in a way that allows for us to obviously pivot. There's no intent to have this policy go into perpetuity that from this day forth for the next decade, we're going to wear a mask.
We could amend it, that's what you're saying.
And that's all written within the text of the policy. So at this point, do we have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Bob. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Amy. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Mike? We're having trouble with the voting on this part, so we'll need to come back, but the motion indeed carries. At this point, do we have any proposed or suggested items for future board meeting agendas? One thing we will do is we'll go back and we will pick up the first readings of the policies that are in letters C and D. Anything else? All right, then we are going to schedule meetings. We will have a special board meeting on Monday, September 28th at 6. There will be a special board meeting Monday, October 5th at 6. There will be a special board meeting on Monday, October 12th at 6. The next regular board meeting will be Monday, October 19th at 6 o'clock, not 7. Please note the difference. And with that, the meeting is adjourned, and the next meeting, the annual meeting, will start in 14 minutes. Thank you, everybody.
Good timing.